Today we catch up with Nathan, who runs Daft Alliance Media, a project specializing in experimental music. So after a long hiatus, you restarted the project and record label in 2020, releasing 10 albums from different artists. So Nathan, what inspired you to restart this project, Daft Alliance?
All right, thank you, Elliot, for having me on here. So as you mentioned, I've been doing Daft Alliance actually for kind of a long time. It goes back almost 20 years. I did it for a long time in the Bay Area. We hosted different events and some different music releases, and even at some point we were kind of working together on a radio show for KUSF. And I guess in 2015, I relocated to a more rural part of California in a small town called Valley Center, which is north of San Diego. And I moved here with my wife, and we're relatively isolated, and I guess we kind of turned into hermits for the first 4 or 5 years that we lived here. And I didn't really do much with music or art during that time. I think I was decompressing and taking a breather after living in the city for so long and just enjoying being in nature and having some peace and quiet. And there's actually a local grocery store. If you want to know the whole story, I'm going to tell you.
Do it.
Our local Jimbo's is our local grocery store here, and I had a very serendipitous meeting in the produce department one day. When I was shopping, I ran into an old friend from San Francisco whose name is Kyle Ranson, who actually, I'll mention him again later because he did the artwork for our Plague Hymn series. But he's an artist friend of mine who I've known for a long time from the Bay Area, and he was shopping in the produce section, and I ran into him and I asked him what he was doing in Escondido. And he said that he was he had an artist residency going on at a place called the Ship in the Woods, which is in Escondido. And I didn't know much about it. I'd heard about a Ship in the Woods, but I hadn't been there yet. And so we made a plan to hang out, and I went over there to Ship in the Woods. It's this great big mid-century home that's been converted into an art space and artist residency. And they had a pool and these beautiful gardens and trees. And it was a really nice summer. That was the summer of 2019. And unfortunately, a Ship in the Woods started to unravel. And unfortunately, they weren't able to keep the building that they were in. And they were searching for a place to do an artist residency. They'd converted a trailer into an experimental music residency. And I was speaking with the owner of the trailer and some people over there with Ship in the Woods about organizing an artist residency here in Valley Center. And we were making plans for that. And so it kind of inspired me to, think about a second life for Daft Alliance. And I started making plans based around the residency. And unfortunately, in March of 2020, everybody's plans changed, including mine, with COVID. I've been in event production professionally for a while, and that whole industry collapsed with COVID immediately. Like we were the first casualty. And the plan for the residency just off the table. And so, I was hit with a surge of free time, canceled plans, and a lot of confusion, but I still wanted to do something with Daft Alliance. I started connecting with people, and I created an Instagram account, and I repurchased my domain name, and I didn't want to cancel all my plans just because of COVID. So I decided to take some of that confusion and that pent up creative energy that I had, and I started to put together a compilation with some of the people that I'd been speaking with online, some old friends, some new friends. And that sort of snowballed into a 4-part series, which was well received. I was really happy with the outcome. And, I formed all these new relationships with that. And yeah, that's sort of the long story of how I restarted the Daft Alliance project.
So you mentioned about the Plague Hymn series being like the first of the first release during the revamp. So what's the story behind that?
Yeah, again, I was kind of moving forward with other plans for Daft Alliance, and it forced me to sort of happily reconnect with a lot of old friends and artists and distributors and people that I knew from previous experiences with Daft Alliance. So when everything changed, again, I had a surge in free time, which is something I haven't had for a very long time. I mean, I usually work beyond full time. So to have all that free time, I thought, I'm a musician and I want to work on my own music during this time. At the time, I thought COVID was going to last for like 2, 3, 4 months, 6 months max. So I thought, well, here's that amount of time to work on my music and maybe work on something for Daft Alliance. So, I just started reaching out to people online, which was something that was new for me. I resisted social media for a long time, and it was a new experience for me to even get on Instagram and start talking to people that way. But it was a really positive experience for the most part. I met a lot of people who were also experiencing the same feelings of confusion, people being laid off and having all this free time, and a lot of musicians who are not touring. Musicians that make money from touring and writing records are at home trying to figure out what to do with themselves. A lot of artists and musicians are gig workers who are laid off. So I started to reach out to people, and a lot of people had the same stories. So I thought, here's a chance to capture this moment. All these people are home in their bedrooms with their computers and their whatever kind of music equipment they've got. This could be like a bedroom series that captures the spirit of COVID. And I think that's kind of what I was thinking with it. And it went really well. We got some really cool artists on there. I had a couple people that helped me curate the lineup. Dwid Hellion, who's AKA Psy Warfare, somebody I've known for a while. He definitely helped connect me with a few great musicians to add to the lineup. And WT Nelson, who I also have worked with. WT records under the name of Emperor of the North. And he's got a band called True Thigh Trin, which is actually, the name of the band's actually TTT. And maybe I could talk about this later too, but it's an acronym that will change with each release. The first release is True Thigh Trin. And WT's a great guy. I've known him for many years. And he also started to help me formulate a lineup for the series. So I had to say thanks to WT and Dwid for helping me with that. And yeah, that's how that went. It came out. I did 4 separate volumes digitally, and then we released a set of 2 cassette tapes that had all 4 volumes on it. So I'll make sure you get one.
Thanks.
I'll send you a
So,
copy after.
what are some upcoming projects and releases for Daft Alliance here 2021?
Okay, so 2021, actually, speaking of WT, we're kind of working out at least one release for his band TTT. And TTT is a collaboration between WT Nelson and Tube Tentacles, who is an artist from Spain, Madrid, actually. And the two of them, it's an incredible pair. I love the music of WT Nelson. He's been in bands like Geronimo. They record and have released a couple records on 3-1G, and he's played in Bastard Noise and Man is the Bastard, and he's just an amazing musician, an amazing person. He builds all of his own electronics. You check it out. It's called Trogatronics if you're not familiar with it. But he's got a really distinct voice, a really unique voice in noise music that I think you can put on his music and immediately identify who it is, which is kind of hard to do with experimental music, to say that about somebody. So TTT is going to be releasing something with Daft Alliance in 2021. And we've got a couple projects coming up, and I'm probably going to butcher some of these names because they're hard to pronounce. But I'm working with an artist right now from Belarus who goes by the name of Dervivi. And I might be butchering that. It's Drwiwy. And I asked him how to pronounce it, and it was even more confusing than looking at the word. But it's Dervivi with an artist from France called by the name of Santa Espina. So Dervivi with Santa Espina. It's a collaboration. Again, Dervivi it's a duo from Belarus. Santa Espina is from France, and they collaborated on some really beautiful music. They're both singers, and they're both amazing singers. And they both make experimental music. So the collaboration is very experimental. It's very hypnotic. It's very beautiful. And even though they're both singers, it's mostly instrumental. And you get some subtle vocals here and there, but you're not overwhelmed by vocals. So that's Dervivi and Santa Espina. That's something we're actually putting out this month, along with a release by an artist named Stonejaw. Well, his name is Terence Regan. He goes by the name of Stonejaw. And Stonejaw is another great artist. I'm really excited to add this one to our lineup or our roster. He makes, I don't want to call it dark ambient, because when you think dark ambient, you immediately start thinking of, the more goth side of dark ambient music, but his music is ambient. It's fairly dark or somber. I wouldn't say it's scary or really super dark, but it's a somber tone, and they're very minimal ambient soundscapes that are really beautiful. So we're going to be doing something with Stonejaw, and yeah, we've got a couple other projects we're working on right now, including some videos.
That's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
dang, this is like an international, connection here. With
Yeah,
people
it's
around the
getting that
world.
way, and I like that. Except for the international shipping gets so expensive.
So,
Yeah, we've worked this year. I kind of tapped into this whole East Coast noise scene that's happening with some of the younger generation of noise heads. It's really thriving out there, and it's really cool to see all these young people that are really embracing noise music on a different level than how people embraced it when even 20 years ago. The kids are getting into it. It's pretty cool, and there's no rules to it out there. So there's all kinds of cool stuff happening.
Sweet. So where can people find out more about Daft Alliance?
Daft Alliance has an Instagram account that I try to update regularly. It's at the Daft Alliance, or the Daft Alliance, not the, but at the Daft Alliance on Instagram. You can check us out on Bandcamp. It's thedaftalliance.bandcamp.com. We have a website that is in need of some work, but it's www.daftalliance.com. And yeah.
Sweet. Well, Nathan, thank you for hanging out, and I'm looking forward to hear more noise.
Yes, I'm going to make sure you get more noise. Thank you for chatting with me. It's been really fun. And I hope we get to talk more something.
Definitely. Cool.